Mishpucha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. Welcome back to my channel, and I'm here today with day 7 of Lindsay's Book Lives and my holiday book exchange. And I was tagged earlier today by Scott and Nelle of Gunpowder Fiction and Plot in a new original tag. So I'm going to unwrap Lindsay's gift for day 7, and then I'm going to do the brand new ratings and reviews tag from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. So, but first, the book. So this says, I hope this novel about an Orthodox Jewish community is as engaging and entertaining as you're hoping for. I love the title. Okay, trying to think what books I have on my TBR that are about Orthodox Jewish communities. I mean, there could be a few, right? Like, Jewish American literature was one of my specialties, and I do have quite a number of books on my Jewish American list on Goodreads that I want to read, or just Jewish list on Goodreads that I want to read. Maybe The Lost Shtetl by Max Gross. It's gonna be my guess. Let's just see what it is. It is The Ladies' Auxiliary by Tova Mirvis. I'm pretty sure this book was suggested to me by a commenter, but now I don't remember who. So if you were the person who recommended me this book, let me know. So yeah, this says when free-spirited Bathsheba moves into the close-knit Orthodox community of Memphis, Tennessee, the already precarious relationship between the ladies' auxiliary and their teenage daughters is shaken to the core. In this extraordinary novel, Tova Mirvis takes us into the fascinating and insular world of the Memphis Orthodox Jews, one ripe with tradition and contradiction. Warm, wise, enchanting, and funny, the ladies' auxiliary brilliantly illuminates the timeless struggle between mothers and daughters, family and self, religious freedom and personal revelation, honoring the past and facing the future. So it's like basically like chick lit, but Jewish, it seems like, right? So let's see when this was published. It looks like it was published in 1999, so it's a bit older at this point. So I haven't done this with any book yet, but I'll just read you the first little opening part of it. Before Bathsheba moved to Memphis, our community was the safest place on earth. Close, small, held together like a carefully crocheted sweater. Little changed in the city where we had always lived, and like our parents and grandparents before us, we couldn't imagine living anywhere else. So yeah, I think this will be like good, sort of lighter reading for me. So thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate this. And again, if you are the commenter who suggested this book to me, do let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you've read it, let me know that too, and let me know what your thoughts were. So thank you for this, Lindsay. So I will now transition into the very exciting original Gunpowder Fiction and Plot tag. So this is the ratings and reviews tag, and like I said, I was tagged in this less than 24 hours ago, so I'm not going to let this tag just sit and languish in my, watch later list that's specifically for tags that I'm tagged in. I'm going to just do it right now. So, question 1, tag people. So, I'm going to tag everyone who I mention in this tag, and then I'm going to tag a few other people on top of that. And since this is a brand new tag, because Scott and Nelle have one of my favorite channels on Booktube, I'm going to try to spread this tag far and wide. So I'm going to tag Brian at Bookish. I'm going to tag Melissa at Fully Booked. I'm going to tag Jen at Remembered Reads. I also want to tag Paula at Draw Your Book, who, by the way, has not posted a video in over a month, and I hope she's just taking a short Booktube hiatus and has not left us permanently. Please come back, Paula. I miss you. Kevi at Say Kevi, Kim at Middle of the Book March, Sandy at Ms. Reads a Lot, Fraser Simon Springboard Thought, Beth Ann Bruning Asokalar, and Mark Nash. Alright, boom. So that was question 1. Question 2, how do you know you've just finished a good book? Is it a thinking or feeling response? So for me, it's definitely feeling. If I am at all sad to see the book end, even like the tiniest bit, then it was a good book. Question 3, when you begin to form your review or rating, what is the first question you ask yourself? So, I don't formulate any kind of review of the book until after I've finished it. But in terms of rating, I don't start thinking about a possible rating for a book until I'm well past the halfway point of a book, because oftentimes books surprise me. And sometimes, even if I start thinking about a rating for a book past the halfway point, it can still change by the time I get to the end of the book. But the first question I probably ask myself, because it's a very intuitive process, but the first question I'm probably going to ask myself is, am I enjoying this book or not? You know, and if I am enjoying it, what is it that I'm enjoying about it? And if not, what am I not enjoying about it? So I think that's probably the first question. So question 4, do you do star ratings? Why or why not? So yes, I do star ratings because there's really no reason for me to not do star ratings. I am a judgmental person by nature, and also being an English professor, pretty much the entirety of my profession is premised on the assumption that some books are better than others. And if you come to my class, I'm going to teach you the good stuff and not teach you the bad stuff. So yeah, I do star ratings because, again, it goes along with my own personal nature as a judgmental person, but then also with my profession where I, you know, again, sort of inherently judge books and rank them against each other. And I'm like, okay, these books are worthy of being canonical texts, and these other books, like, I'm not going to include them on my course schedule or syllabus because I don't think they're as good for X, Y, or Z reasons. So explain your star rating system. What does a good book get in your rating system? Okay, so apologies to people who already saw my answer to this in Scott and Nelle's video with the panel discussion about language and people's ratings and reviews of books, because I'm pretty much going to say about the same thing I said there. So if a book gets 1 star, that means it is personally offensive to me in some way, and I don't recommend it at all to anyone. And again, the whole time I've been on Booktube, or the whole time I've been using Goodreads, I should say, which has been since 2019, I've only given 2 books in that whole time a 1-star rating. 2 stars means it had some promise, but I was disappointed by it for one reason or another. 3 stars is basically, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, it was fine. If it reaches the 3.5 star mark, then that means I liked it, would probably recommend it. And 4 star, I also do quarter stars, but I don't want to mess with talking about those right now. So 4 stars means it has reached the threshold of, it was compulsively readable to me for one reason or another, and I'm probably definitely going to recommend it to you as the viewer, unless I give some sort of stipulation about why you shouldn't read it, like I keep saying about Sayaka Murata's Earthlings. Yes, it was a 4-star read. Do I recommend you read it? No. And then 4.5 stars basically is like, this was so close to a 5-star book for me, but there were maybe like 1 or 2 tiny flaws that kept me from making it a 5-star book. And then 5 stars is basically, this was amazing, everyone should read this, it changed my life, etc., etc. So, and then 4A2, I'm not sure how this is going anymore. So, is your star rating consistent, i.e. are all your 5-star books better than all your 4-star books? So, I like to think that my star ratings are fairly consistent, but you know, as I am just an individual person who has whims and thoughts and feelings of my own, I do reserve the right to, you know, be inconsistent, because as Ralph Waldo Emerson writes in his essay Self-Reliance, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. So yes, mostly, but maybe with some inconsistencies here and there. Number 5, do you believe every book has its perfect reader? Does this contradict the idea that a book can be bad? I do think that every book has an ideal reader, but also I think that sometimes that ideal reader is the author themselves, and the book really shouldn't have been published. So there you go. Question 6, what book that you hated have you recommended? None. I would not recommend a book that I hated. I would also not recommend a book that I DNF'd because I really disliked it for one reason or another. So yeah, none. I don't think I've ever recommended a book that I hated. Number 7, what makes a book good, bad, or great by your evaluation? So I think for me, a book is, it kind of depends what you mean by bad, right? Like if you mean bad, do you mean like I hated it or I just didn't like it? Because those are two different things. So I'm going to say for this that bad means that it's lower in quality than a 3-star book. So anything that I've rated that's lower than 3 stars, I'm just going to say is bad. Again, whatever we mean by that. If it's good, then that means I want to keep reading it while I'm reading it. If it's great, one thing that Scott and Nelle mentioned in their original version of this tag, which I've linked down below if I didn't already say that, is that they mentioned that the book is like an emotional roller coaster for them, and I actually agree about this. I think I will often think that a book is 5 stars or great if it has emotionally moved me, and especially if I experience a variety of emotions while reading it. So there are definitely a couple of books that I'm going to talk about in my year-end, year-end review. These are the best and worst books that I read all year, whatever kind of video that is that I eventually make, where that is the case, where I have felt like every possible emotion reading this book, and that is why it got a very high rating for me. Number 8, when evaluating the quality of a book, do you have specific criteria or aspects of the book, such as character development, that you consider? Does this change if you're writing an in-depth review versus just thinking about the book for enjoyment? So I've said more than once on my channel that a book has to have at least one of the following 3 traits for me to keep reading it, and preferably 2 or more for me to really like it. And those 3 things are character development or growth, a plot that's engaging, and or good writing. So again, you gotta have at least one of those 3 for me to keep reading, but again, for me to actually like it, 2 or more. And I don't think for me that it matters between whether I'm writing a review of the book or whether I'm just sort of thinking about my own enjoyment of it, because for me, those three factors influence what rating or review I will give the book, and they will also influence how much I enjoy reading the book, if that makes sense. So I don't separate those 2 things. They are the same. Like, those 3 criteria appear whether I like the book or not, and whether I think it's a good book or not. Number 9, do you consider star ratings or average ratings when choosing books to read or add to your TBR? So I notice these because you really can't help but notice them on Goodreads, but it does not affect my decision about whether or not to add a book to my TBR, honestly. Question 10, who on Booktube does reliable and interesting reviews of books that you know you can use to decide if a book is for you or not? What makes the reviews so good? So I think there are really 2 categories that this question gets at, and I think in their original tag video, Scott and Nelle addressed this. So the first category is really people whose reviews enable me to tell whether or not I will like a book, versus people who have similar taste to mine, and who, if they recommend a book of such and such a type, I'll be like, ah, yes, all right, I will probably like it too. So in the first category of people whose reviews I feel like enable me to tell whether or not I'm going to like a book, I would put Jen of Remembered Reads and Paula of Draw Your Book. And I think this is really getting into more question 11, by the way, which is, do these booktubers use different language than you to evaluate and review the overall quality of a book? Both Jen and Paula, I think, are more sort of analytical in their reviews of books than I myself am, and I think because they think about things in a more logical way, and whereas I'm, I think, a more emotional reader, I think that's why I value their reviews of books and am able to then tell whether or not I might like a book based on what they say. And then in the second category of people I mentioned, of like people who just have similar taste to mine, and so if they say they liked a book, then I know that I'll probably like it too, I would probably put Brian of Bookish and Melissa at Fully Booked. I feel like they have the most similar taste to mine for books that we've both read, especially literary and or contemporary fiction. And if we're talking poetry, then I would say Mark Nash or Roz at Scallydandling About the Books, because they both seem to value experimentation and kind of linguistic playfulness that I really like in poetry. So it really depends what is the genre of the book, and are we talking about people whose taste is most similar to mine, or people who talk about a book in such a way that I can discern better whether or not I'm going to like it. So, okay, so that's the tag. So, thank you for watching this, and thank you again to Scott and Nelle for another great original tag. I'll be interested to see this go around Booktube and see what everybody has to say. So thank you for watching this. I hope everyone is staying healthy and well. I hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading. I will see you again tomorrow, and would it kill you to call you Mother?